Hi, I'm Stephen and welcome to today's video where we change out the front control arm bushings to some made from polyurethane. We're going to remove the front control arm from the car, push out the original rubber and hydraulic fluid filled bushing, insert in its place a much firmer polyurethane version and then bolt the control arm back in the car. Along with the usual workshop tools like spanners and sockets, there are also a few special tools required for this job. A 1/2-inch drive torque wrench, a Dremel tool with cutting discs, a bushing bearing kit, a wheel bearing kit, a male torque socket set, and a nice bottle of pink nail varnish. Not for me, not really my colour. I've got to start by saying that polyurethane bushings are not really an upgrade, or perhaps it's better to say they're not an upgrade for the majority of drivers. Almost no major car manufacturer ever uses them, even on their sports models, and that is because they are bad for the all-important NVH.
NVH.
NVH stands for noise, vibration and harshness, and low NVH helps to sell new cars. So rubber bushings are great for NVH, and polyurethane and solid rose joint types, they're not so great. By now you've got to be asking me why I am even doing this to my car, and it has to do with how the car feels under hard braking. The standard rubber and fluid-filled bushings allow the front wheels to move around about an inch under hard braking, and to me that makes the car feel quite unstable and not very confidence-inspiring, especially when you're about to turn into a fast corner. If you don't drive like me, fair play. There is no reason to do this modification, but if you do drive like me, then after you change to poly bushings you will wonder why you didn't do it years ago. And if you take your car on track days, then don't even think about leaving the standard rubber bushings in place. As a side benefit, poly bushings last about 4 times longer. Right, let's get on with it. Handbrake on, rear wheels secured, and we'll jack up the car and take off the front wheels and the engine under tray. I found that the best and most secure car chassis stand for a BMW is actually a large trolley jack with a big block of wood under to stop it going down unintentionally. When we remove the ball joint nut, it is necessary to hold the shaft in place with a male torque socket. For the subframe end, it is just a matter of removing the bolt, as the nut is captive to the subframe. For my car today we're doing a bit of a strange swap, and that is because I have one set of front forward control arms with poly bushings installed, but with worn out ball joints. The other set have good ball joints, but with the original rubber bushings that are starting to separate. So in this case it is a matter of combining the best of each set. Taking the poly bushings out of the old control arms is pretty straightforward if we use some components from a bushing bearing kit along with a wheel bearing kit, along with a spray or two of WD-40. Both of these kits are not that expensive in the scheme of things, and you will definitely use them again for your BMW or any other car. So money well spent. I've put links in the description so that you can find out exactly the tools that I'm using today. If you happen to have a hydraulic press, then you can do these steps even quicker. The reason that both kits are required is that it is often necessary to use two identical items, and the kits don't come with duplicate items. I should also note that some types of poly bushing come in two halves, so there is no need to press them in like this. They just slot in. Much easier. And another thing to mention is that if you've bought new parts to do this job, then you can skip over the rest of this chapter. And now it is time to remove the original BMW bushings, and that is not as easy. We start by using components from the two toolkits, as we did before, in order to push out the center rubber and oil section. Afterward, it is necessary to remove the steel sleeve, but that is a problem because the sleeve is actually larger than the opening in the alloy, so pressing it out will break the alloy. So we have to cut through the steel with a Dremel cutting disc or two before it can be pressed out. In the past I've tried heating the alloy to expand it, but I ended up abandoning the idea because the heat needed is going to be over 400 degrees Celsius or 750 degrees Fahrenheit, which is way too much for a home DIY job. And it also comes with the possibility of warping the control arm. And now we can push in our new, or in this case reused, poly bushing. A quick spray of WD-40 helps avoid damage. Here I am making sure that the edge isn't tucked under by running a plastic trim tool round the outside. Use the grease that came with the kit to lubricate where the polyurethane meets the steel centre bushing. This particular brand features a special imprinted surface that holds the grease in place, and even after being installed for 4 years, the grease was still working well when I removed it from the car, so it is a great feature to look for. It is time to inspect the mounting points on the car to ensure that they are clean and shiny. Depending on what you find, depends on what you need to do to clean them. Some paper towel can be used to hold either alloy wheel cleaner or degreaser to help shift the salt or old grease or whatever else is stuck in there. After the chemical cleaning, it is time to use some sandpaper or emery cloth or Scotch-Brite pad to clean the surface. Here I have cut up an old tie rod end, and I'm using that with a piece of 3M Scotch-Brite pad to make the surface like new again. Lovely. It is now time to insert the forward control arm back into the car, and there is one easy way to do this, and there are about 50 hard ways. And I know this because I'm pretty sure I've tried every bad way that exists. Make sure that the steering is set to straight ahead, put the ball joint end in first, and hold it to make sure that it is fully down, then swing up the arm into the slot in the subframe. If it doesn't go in exactly that easily, then you're doing something wrong. So stop and start over again. Don't try and force it in, or hammer it in, or angle it in, or put the bushing end in first. These are all bad ideas that will waste possibly hours of your time and could result in damage to your subframe as well. This job is easy, but it can be made difficult if you try and rush it, or if you can't quite see what you're doing. If you think it is not working out, then take a break for 15 minutes, have a coffee, come back and it will slide in easily, just like you saw in the video. You can use a little mirror to make sure that the hole is lined up and then insert the bolt. BMW recommend that any suspension nuts and bolts are replaced with new ones every time. Time to do up the nut on the ball joint while holding the shaft in place with a male torque socket. Once it is reasonably tight, it is time to get the torque wrench into action and do it up to the required value. For this car it is 165 Newton meters or 122 foot-pound. Now there is the subframe bolt to do up, and the initial torque value depends on what the bolt is made of, so you'll have to check out what is stamped on the end. For grade 8.8 bolts, the initial torque value is 68 Newton meters, or 50 foot-pound. And if it is a grade 10.9 bolt, then the initial torque value is 100 Newton meters, or 74 foot-pound. After the torque value has been reached, it is necessary to tighten a further 90 degrees. I have an angle gauge just for this purpose, but it won't fit in the space available. So I'm using my favourite nail varnish to mark the bolt and another point at right angle to the first mark, so that I know when I have reached the final tightening position. One of the best things about poly bushings is that it is not necessary to have the car at ride height to do this final tightening, which makes the job a lot easier. I hope this video will help you out if you decide to change your control arm bushings to polyurethane too. Personally, I really appreciate the extra control and confidence it gives me under hard braking, but I also fully understand if this modification is not really for you. If you like this video, then give it a like and hit that subscribe circle and notification bell to help me make more videos like this. Until next time.